Jiva Cordia, hi everyone. Eimear Burke here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat, and this is Fireside Chat 139. So, as is customary, I start with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiocon ar fud na crinne. Gamara Shiocon in our jaili agus in our jirha. Gunairi lin ar cuid garmacha. Gamij buichas jiv, jeha, chivdaka is spirit chivdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. But the fever of day calms towards twilight. May all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts limn providence at the heart of history. For those who make riches from violence and war, might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So let me see where you all from. Greetings from sunny Wyoming with a gentle breeze blowing today. Lovely. Good evening from dark and rainy London. It's very dull here in Kilkenny. Wet London. Damp, dry day. Warm greetings in Lapland. Lovely, rainy Idaho. Good morning, Brisbane. Well done, Helen. You're up early. I know the 60 degrees in, I think, Colorado, but I don't know what that is in centigrade. Hello from Belgium. And we've got people from Calgary, from Canada, New Orleans, lovely. West Cornwall, Wyoming, brilliant. Lovely to see you all. It's just great to be here. And so, Richmond, Virginia, lovely. So this evening we are in the UK and going to Bristol. And let me introduce my guest this evening is Daniel Fryer. Daniel, you are so welcome to this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm quite honoured. I didn't join the order that long ago, so it's quite nice.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. So you are in Bristol, and that's where I fly to, or when I my first trip to Glastonbury was through Bristol. So tell us what your landscape is like.
So I'm very lucky, actually. So I moved here from London in 2016. My landscape in London was a main road with the bus stop right outside the window. So that wasn't very pleasant. And I moved up here to get away from all of that. And I found a very lovely flat built into a churchyard. And it's, I mentioned to you the other day, actually, it's got a green man statue in it. And it's got a little grove of trees in it. So my immediate landscape is a very, very pretty one.
Wow.
Bristol itself is very green, very wet. My landscape's very wet. A lot of people saying, 60 degrees, I'm very envious. Sunny Wyoming, very, very envious. Wet London, I commiserate, I feel you. There were many draws and many pulls to Bristol. And one of the pulls was I kept being told that it was one of the driest places in the United Kingdom, that it had a microclimate. And when I used to visit friends up here, it was actually, I always managed to catch it on a sunny day. So I thought, excellent, I will escape cold, wet, rainy London and have slightly warmer, drier Bristol. And it was raining the day I moved in, and it rained solidly every day for the next 3 months. So what the hell have I done?
I thought Manchester was the wettest.
I think we're all the wettest.
Okay.
Apparently, this is the wettest. This month is the wettest February that we've had for the past 258 years. I know that in the southwest region, it's been the second wettest year on record, and this is going from January to now. And if the whole southwest was a swimming pool, it would be more than 4 feet deep because of the amount of rain that we've had. So the landscape is currently soggy, muddy, damp, wet all the time, with occasional moments of lovely. And it's a shame because a really nice thing about Bristol is if you go 10 minutes outside of the city, you can access some really, really beautiful forests, gorges, meadows. Go a bit further, there are beaches, but lately it's just been too wet to access them.
So what forests have you?
The nearest one to me is Lee Woods. And Lee Woods is, it overlooks Avon Gorge. Avon Gorge is ginormous. It's got the Clifton suspension bridge going across it. And so you can have a good old wander around there. And you can actually follow the gorge along it. You can walk along the gorge for God knows how long. It goes on all the way up to other little villages like Shirehampton and Pill. There's a strange little witch's cottage in the middle of Lee Woods that I really want to live in. And opposite that is Abbots Lee, which is just another part of the same forest. It's just the main road that's separating it. And Abbots Lee has a very ancient Abbots Pool in it that Abbots built hundreds of years ago specifically to bathe in.
No way.
And it's become so popular now, they've had to stop people going to it. It's like, get out of this historical pool.
Wow, wow, wow. And somebody says it's minus 21 centigrade in Montreal.
Ooh, that's chilly.
I think so. The coldest I've been, it was Moscow, and that was minus 14. And I felt that cold, but wow, minus 21. It's something else. Yeah.
Mm. I'd like to say hello to the people in Calgary and New Orleans, by the way. I heard you roll call those. I've been to both those places. Calgary is lovely. New Orleans is awesome.
I've been to New Orleans. I was there in at the Gulf Coast Gathering in 2019. That was an amazing place. I've never been to Canada. So, and Berkshire, for once, Tricia says, for once, it's not. And Julia says in the US, I'm so ready to start complaining about the heat and the drought, obviously. So anyway, okay, good evening, Northern Hemisphere folk from the southern land, preventing us from entertaining by the forest mad world. I don't know what that means. Okay. And Calgary can get down to minus 40, but not often, but it does. And Norfolk Island, which Linda is in Australia, 22 degrees, very pleasant. So, I mean, it's interesting that you're complaining, but Irish people are always complaining. If it's too hot, it's too cold, it's not hot enough, it's not cold enough, it's too wet, it's always, there's an obsession with the weather. So anyway, so do you have any, so apart from you've got your natural landscape around you, do you have any sacred sites that you go to around Bristol?
My sacred site is my churchyard, to be honest. There's a green man statue in it, which I honour and leave offerings to. But obviously I've been to Stonehenge. I've been to a place called Goblin Combe, which is a very magical place. Slightly ruined when you get to the top of it. It's like a mini gorge and it's absolutely stunning and it looks like it could be a portal to another world. And they've let it grow wild and there's weird wooden steps that go up the gorge that don't really lead to anything. They're just there to make it look pretty. And it's absolutely awesome. And it's very magical at the bottom. But once you get to the very, very top, you realise that the entire gorge is a flight path for jets coming into Bristol Airport. So slightly gets ruined. As you get to the top to sit down and plonk your feet over the edge and relax, jets come in to land.
Oh, no. Wow.
And there's Cheddar Gorge as well, which I kind of enjoy.
I've been to Cheddar Gorge a long time ago with my kids. Wonderful. And are you a member of a seed group or a grove in Bristol?
Yeah, I am a member of the Bristol Grove, which is the Debonny Grove. Debonny, sorry. Keep calling it Debonny. That's a drink.
That's a drink, yes. Okay. So it's interesting. Linda says, I found the Templar Gardens in Bristol. There's a ruined abbey and the energy is so amazing that I had to keep going back. Do you know that place?
Yes, absolutely. There's lots of ruins around here. There's another one in Castle Green, or Castle Park rather. There's another ruined church or abbey. So you wander around, there's lots of.
Okay, and who erected that green man in your courtyard?
Oh, actually, I dug out some information on it. A neighbour gave me something. If you bear with me a second, I can find it. There it is. So this was, it was actually put here in 1991. So there was a sculptor rather, called Steve Joyce. And on the 28th of January in 1991, he sent letters to everybody in the buildings that I live in the surrounding area saying, "Dear resident, as you live next to St. John's Churchyard, I thought you'd like to know about some of the environmental improvements intended for this open space. The first thing is the setting of a stone sculpture that I carved for the South of the River Arts Festival for City Farm. This sculpture is called the Green Man and is based on medieval carvings of tree spirits, an image that was originally created to encourage the growth of crops and trees. At the time, man was very reliant on trees, vegetables, and nature for survival, and once again, we are now recognizing that they are important. The sculpture stands 5'6" high and will sit on a low plinth adjacent to the foundations of the old church. The whole project is undertaken in conjunction with the City Planning Department and Bristol Parks Department." So there you go.
Oh. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So tell us a little bit about your background, you know, I suppose your spiritual journey and eventually how you came to Druidry and Obod. So starting from day one.
Starting from day one.
Whatever day one was.
And most of the things in my life, I am a late developer, and I was a late developer to spirituality, but I've had spiritual things happen to me that I've always, you know, either excused by the chemicals that I was partaking of at the time, or just put down to deja vus and coincidences and things like that. But it kind of gathered a pace, really, just 2015 and 2016. So first of all, I, as a client, I was a psychotherapist. As a client, I saw a lady who was a psychic, and she had a problem, and one of her guides had said, you can't go in-house for this problem, you need somebody rational. And she found me, and I'm a rational emotive behavior therapist. So as soon as she saw that word, she went, him. And we got on very, very well. Because we got on so well, she gave me a free reading afterwards. And she told me that I was quite spiritual, that spirits were trying to speak through me. And they were getting impatient with me because I wasn't listening. And she also said that I was going to move soon. And she saw a place that was hilly, covered in higgledy-piggledy coloured houses and a great big suspension bridge. And at the time, I was going over to San Francisco quite a lot because friends of mine had emigrated there, and they were trying to get me to come over and live. And I'd actually put my CV up on a website. So at the time, I went, "Oh my God, it's going to be San Francisco. I'm going to San Francisco. Great." That didn't happen. London wasn't working out for me. I was miserable. Work wasn't working. I didn't really like where I lived. I had a friend in Bristol. I had a friend in Bath, and they were saying, "Come up, come up." And I was like, shall I, should I? And I was like, I don't know whether I should do it. Is it the right move? I just want a sign. I want a sign, I said. And then one day I was walking along South Lambeth Road in Vauxhall, and it was very, really windy and rainy. And the wind blew this newspaper and just slapped it in my face. And it was the Metro newspaper, which is free newspaper that you get in London and other metropolitan cities. But it always has like advertising wraparounds. So the front and the back page are advertising. And at the time, First Great Western, which is the train company operating out of Paddington, were doing a big push to get people to travel to the Southwest and visit it. And the slogan was, "Be a First Great Westerner." And that's what hit me in the face. It was the advert for that. And I pulled it off my face, and it said, "Be a First Great Westerner." And there were like just loads of pictures of Bristol. So there was the Clifton Suspension Bridge. There was Cabot Tower, which is another famous landmark. And then in Millennium Square, there's this giant thing. It looks like a disco ball, but it's their planetarium. And so these were all the pictures. And I just thought, okay, there's my sign.
Brilliant.
And so I moved up here, and things all kind of magically fell into place, and the move was very, very easy, and I found work. And lots of like coincidental things kept happening. So first of all, I was running groups on the group. I was working in a psychiatric hospital, and I started running a group for them on CBT, and it went quite well. So they asked me to develop a couple of other ideas, and I did one on hypnotherapy because I'm also a hypnotherapist, but I also like positive psychology. So I developed an 8-week rolling program on positive psychology. And one of the weeks is about a thing called character strengths. And positive psychology did a deep dive into philosophy, Buddhism, other practices to come up with attributes that we all possess, that if you work out which ones are your strengths and you play to them, meaning that you will elevate your mood, your happiness, and your well-being. And there's 24 of them. They're cross-cultural. They're recognized everywhere. Perseverance is a strength. Spirituality is a strength. And it turned out it was one of mine. So when I did this online test, the idea is if you focus on your top 5 strengths, that's how you find your flow. The 4 of my top 5 weren't a surprise to me. But one of them was spirituality, and it was in at number 2. And I was like, okay, I don't do anything spiritual, and I don't consider myself spiritual, yet here it is. So I started to explore things, and first thing I did was a transcendental meditation course, because there was a transcendental meditation center very near where I live, and I find that I enjoyed that actually more than self-hypnosis, mindfulness. And then I started reading books on spirituality and shamanism. So there's a lady called Krista McKinnon, and she had lectured at some of the places I'd lectured at. So I started reading her books, and I came to shamanism, and I realized that I was an animist, and always had been, and not in a way I could articulate, but that's just how I view things, that everything has a soul, everything has a consciousness, everything is sentient, really. It's something that I've always known and believed. And then I just thought, okay, now there it is. After that, I pursued an online shamanism course, and but I wasn't very comfortable with it, because you can't explore shamanism without bumping heads with cultural appropriation. But I did this introductory course, and I did enjoy it, but it was online, and the mentorship wasn't that good. It was basically, the feedback mainly was like, yeah, you got this, yeah, you got this, oh, that's great, yeah, you got this, with nothing kind of concrete to it. And then I kind of got a bit stuck with it, and I couldn't seem to journey anywhere, and I couldn't seem to access the spirit guides that I've met. And the mentor was just saying, well, ask your spirit guides. I'm going, I can't. They're not there. That's the problem. Give me some advice. And they didn't. And the whole introductory course was actually supposed to be work on yourself, which is what I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of it all, they thrust this great big soul retrieval thing in the middle of it. And you're like, okay, I'm not ready to do that for other people just yet. So I bowed out of the course. I was working in a therapy services department, and I was just listening. We were just a bunch of therapists seeing clients, and with a little central hub, and we just earwigged on each other's conversations sometimes. And I realized that that person was a shamanic practitioner. That person was a shamanic practitioner. I was starting to explore that, and we were like, and there was this 3 of us, and we just used to have these really, really nice conversations about it. But I didn't do anything more with it because cultural appropriation. And then I met Daniel Mackenzie, who and who's been on here because he stays in Bristol before going down to his twice yearly pilgrimages to Glastonbury. And we got talking, and I found out he was a druid. And so we had a few conversations, and I looked at the OBOD website. Another thing that I'd been wanting to do, that I used to be a journalist, but I've always wanted to do more creative writing, and I kind of dipped my toe in and out of that pond, but never really do anything with it. And I was looking at the time for maybe a creative writing course, maybe a poetry course or something to stimulate my juices. And then as I read the OBOD website, not only did I like what it said, not only did I realize that I could practice this and not bump heads with cultural appropriation, but the whole of the bardic introduction did a really, really big sell on exploring the power of storytelling and awakening your creative inspiration. So I just thought, yes, that's me. So I signed up for it. I took the 2 introductory packs, which are designed to reel you in anyway. And they did exactly that. They reeled me in, and I had begun the official Guernsey in August 2022.
That recently. Okay.
That recent, yeah. That's why I said I'm quite honoured to be here, because I'm that recent.
Well, my guess, it's not about how much you know about Druidry. Some people say, oh, no, wait till I finish the Bardic grade or the Ovate grade, because I'm not interested in what you know and what's on Gwers 35. I'm interested in the person.
Yeah.
Because you're more than whatever point you are on the path. Bev says the higgledy-piggledy coloured houses are Totterdown.
They are, yes. Oh, I have a funny story about that. That's also a bit spiritual, if you want to hear.
Oh, absolutely.
So I was visiting my friend who lives in Bristol, and this is after I'd been slapped in the face with the newspaper, and I was just saying, I think maybe I should come up here. And in the harbour, so there's a great big harbour that runs through the middle of Bristol, and on it is the SS Great Britain, which is the first ever steamship, and it's built by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, and it's now it's a museum piece, so you can board it and wander it through it. Ooh,
how do I do that? Sorry. Apologies. Okay, I'll keep going. Sorry. Yeah. Apologies for that.
Absolutely. So, but you can also climb the rigging of it. So we did that. So me and my friend climbed the rigging of the SS Great Britain. And when I got to the top, all of Bristol just kind of like the sun broke through the clouds, and all of Bristol kind of like spun out around me, and you could see everything: the rolling hills, the higgledy-piggledy houses of Totterdown, Clifton Suspension Bridge, and a little voice that wasn't mine said it was never San Francisco.
Oh,
so
that's incredible. That
got me there. Weirdly, I think that was a bit of a vision, because after I'd been living here for about a year and a half, the same friend, he had a friend visiting from Spain, and he went, I don't know what to do with her. Where should we take her? What's nice? What to do? And I went, oh, let's go to the top of the SS Great Britain. The view from there is amazing. And he went, no, it's not. I went, no, it is. It is. You can see everything. You can see for miles. And he went, no, you can't. I went, you can. We did it. Do you remember? And he went, yes, I remember. I was there. It's nice. We'll do that. So we went up the rigging again. And it was a rubbish view. You could just see a little bit more of the harbour. You could not see the rolling hills. You could not see the higgledy-piggledy houses of Totterdown. You could not see Clifton Suspension Bridge. So I was like, okay, what was that then?
It wasn't because it was cloudy.
No, it's just the mast isn't as tall as it was in my mind's eye, and you can see just a little bit more of the harbour from a slightly higher vantage point, but you couldn't see what I saw that day.
Wow, that is something else.
Yes, that was what got me here.
Magic.
Yeah.
Climbing that rigging, is that not scary and wobbly and everything else? Because you're obviously climbing.
It's wobbly, but it's like everything today. It's completely safe because you've got a big helmet on and you've got a guide rope, and the rope's attached to a thing, and so even if you fell, you just kind of dangle and look a bit silly. So
I'm surprised that that's allowed, that they have that as part of the visit to the ship, that they would allow you to do that. Wow.
Yeah, we have to pay for it, so it's another draw, isn't it?
Of course. So the first one you needed to do, and the second one, well.
Yep. The second one is where I found out the view isn't what I thought it was. So that's always stayed with me.
I just find that fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So I know you're a therapist, and you've been doing that for quite a while. Can you talk about how Druidry has actually helped you in your life, or supported you in a way that maybe your therapy hasn't, or do you see the two of them very much intertwined?
Actually, no, I see. So Druidry is my self-care.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember. I first met you at the summer gathering last year. And you told me, so you welcome to OBOD. She said, by the way, a lot of our members are LGBT and a lot of our members are psychotherapists. And then you just looked at me and went, oh God, you're both, aren't you?
Did I say that? I don't remember.
But and I was surprised at just how many psychotherapists there are. So I do wonder what it is about psychotherapy that after you've done it for a while, you have to run off into the middle of a forest and commune with spirit. But that's what I need. So it's my self-care. It's how I detox and shake off everybody else's energy. It's how I don't bring it home. And I think if I didn't have that, I'd probably be in more therapy myself.
Absolutely. I mean, I know as part of our training, we have to undergo our own therapy. And, you know, I was for 5 years. And if I'm in distress now, that's not where I go. I don't go to conventional psychotherapy. It's the other stuff, the nature-based stuff, the forest, healing energies, all of that. And yet I value my psychotherapy because I work as one. You know, I really, really value that.
Yeah, it has its place, but I can do the psychotherapy myself because I've been doing it long enough. I can therapize myself, but then that's like a busman's holiday, isn't it? So this is Druidry is mine. I mean, I do still chuck myself into therapy every now and then because I mean, it's not a requirement when you're accredited, but I think it's good practice to do that. But I've got a great therapist in Bristol who is shamanic, spiritual. She does yoga, she does breath work, she does chakra. So that even then it's that.
Absolutely. Now, John King, who's up in Ardnamurchan, can take it from me. You don't have to be a psychotherapist to run off into the wilderness. John, and he is somebody who runs off into the wilderness. He bathes every morning in a river. And Linda wants to know: have you tried jumping in the sea? It always helps me detox energy.
Yep. There's about a 40-minute drive from me is a place called Clevedon, and Clevedon is it's a little Victorian seaside town. Except it's not really the seaside; it's the Bristol estuary. So it's seawater, but it's also a river, and it's quite brown and muddy. But it's a lovely little Victorian town, and they have built a lovely swimming pool in the sea. So it's like walled off from the sea, but you can swim in it, and that's ice cold, and that's a very lovely thing to plunge into.
So it's not 100% seawater. It's that mixture, is it, or is it?
Well, it's an estuary, so I guess it's a mixture of, you know, the Avon, and yes, the sea.
Wow, wonderful. So you are you're a poet and you're an author. So just tell us about your first book.
Actually, well, I used to be a journalist.
Oh, go on. Okay.
And my first book was called The Ultimate Stag Night Kit. And it was a little stocking filler book that came with a free inflatable sheep. So that tells you what the market was there. My next book was there's a sportswear brand called Gola. I don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah. And back in 2005, it celebrated its centenary. And at the time, Wayne Hemingway was the owner and the overarching designer for the brand, and he'd commissioned a book to celebrate the centenary, and it was written by two football enthusiasts. But he hated it. It was really boring and dull. And he said, we're Gola, we're a bit tongue-in-cheek. I need somebody who's tongue-in-cheek. And somebody who worked at Chrysalis that had done my Stag Night kit put me forward. So I met him and I wrote an introductory chapter. I know absolutely nothing about football, nothing. And I ended up writing this book celebrating the centenary of Gola because I just took all this research that these other guys had done and I turned it into like a bit of a Mickey take. Nice, heartwarming, tongue-in-cheek, mocking celebration of the centenary of the brand, which Wayne Hemingway absolutely loved. And then I had to go and talk on sports radio. And they kept asking me all these football questions that I couldn't answer. And I just said, I was brought on to make it funny. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about football.
Oh.
My first therapy book, which is a big book, those two books were stocking fillers. So my first therapy book came out in 2019. And that's all about rational emotive behavior therapy. And it's got a title that I don't know if I'll be allowed to say on your show.
I'll if it's this is the Four Thoughts one, yeah?
Yes.
I'll put it in. I okay. Four thoughts that I think I'll do, what do you call those things?
Say bleep instead of the rude word if you like.
It's the title of a book, so I can't really, and how to fix them. Okay.
I can flash it up at the camera if you want.
Okay. It's gone out.
There we go. There it is. So it's got a little star in it, so you can't quite see the rude word.
I put 3 stars in, actually.
Oh, there we go.
I put an extra star in.
Yeah.
Only
one star is needed. As you can see, from the title, that's also tongue-in-cheek, but it's a self-help book on rational emotive behavior therapy.
So give us a flavor of the book. Give us one thought that.
So REBT says that it's not the events in life that disturb you, it's what you are telling yourself about those events that does the disturbing. So if you are stuck, if you are thinking and feeling and acting in ways that you don't like, but don't seem to be able to change, it's not the thing, it's what you're telling yourself about it. And the idea is if you change what it is that you tell yourself, you will change the way you think and the way you feel and the way you act in the face of the same thing. And when it talks about what you're telling yourself, there are 4 main types of thought that are doing all the disturbing, hence the title of the book. And public enemy number 1 in those 4 thoughts is what's known as a dogmatic demand. And a demand is, it's the rigid expression of a desire for something. And it takes the form of words like must and mustn't and should and shouldn't. So there's something that you want, but up here you're saying it must be. Or there's something that you don't want, and up here you're going, so it must not be. And either way, it's the rigid expression of a desire. And these demands are normally out of kilter with reality because you don't always get what you want, and you can prove it. It doesn't make sense to say you must have a thing just because you like to have a thing. And it doesn't make any sense to say this mustn't happen just because you don't want it to happen. And the demand doesn't help. It will make you anxious, or it'll make you depressed, or make you angry. And it means that in the face of your particular problem, you won't be thinking or feeling or acting constructively. The healthy version of that is called a flexible preference. So you say what you would like, but you accept you don't have to have it. So I would prefer to have this, but I don't have to have it. Or I hope that doesn't happen, but I accept that there's nothing to say it mustn't happen. It can happen. You're still being true to yourself. It's your preference, but you're also accepting reality. You don't always get what you want. So that's a much more sensible proposition. And it's much more likely to help you. You're not going to be entirely happy if your preference isn't met, but you will be more constructive in the face of the adversity or the challenge. So that's thought number 1.
It's interesting. I'm going to come to the 2, but a lot of advertising it's this year's must have. Yeah. And I find it always jars with me. And it's sold to you as a must have. It's really, really interesting how powerful and how subtle that is, because that's playing into the must have thinking that people have anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, your next 3.
Oh, okay. So people who hold demands are more likely, not guaranteed, but more likely to awfulize, to catastrophize, to make things worse than they are. So that's the second thought, awfulizing, catastrophizing, blowing it all out of proportion. People who hold demands are much more likely to exhibit what we call low frustration tolerance. Awfulizing is a rating of badness. Low frustration tolerance is a rating of your ability to handle things. So in terms of everyday language, this is where people say or believe, I can't handle it, I can't stand it, I can't cope, this is intolerable. And the final 4th of the unhealthy ones is known as the pejorative put down, or I call it the pejorative put down anyway. And you can put yourself down. So I'm rubbish, I'm an idiot. You can put other people down, you're stupid. You can put things down. So I might make a few mistakes in this interview and go, oh my God, it was completely horrible. Oh. It's like a global negative put down of the self or of others or of things. And each one of them, like the demand has the preference, each one of them has a more rational alternative. Instead of awfulizing, you have anti-awfulizing or anti-catastrophizing. And this is where you can say, okay, well, it is bad, or I don't like it, but it's not the worst thing that I can think of. It's not the worst thing that can happen. So you're seeing things as they are rather than blowing them out of proportion. And then instead of low frustration tolerance, you have high frustration tolerance, which looks like or sounds like, well, this is difficult, but I can stand it. This is challenging, but I'll get through it. Because I can't stand it. If you literally couldn't stand something, you would expire or you would spontaneously combust. Whereas there are things in this world that can kill you. Extreme heat, extreme cold, clearly not minus 21, clearly not minus 40 when it gets that way in Calgary, but it can. Everything else, think of how many times you've used that expression, I can't stand this, I can't cope with it, and yet you have stood 100% of the things you said you couldn't stand because you're still there talking about them. So it's difficult, it's challenging, but I can deal with it. It's high frustration tolerance. And then the final one is self-worth through unconditional self-acceptance, or just unconditional acceptance of everyone and everything. So I'm not an idiot. I'm a worthwhile, fallible human being. They're not stupid. They're worthwhile, fallible human beings. I can make howlers in this interview with you, and it will still be okay. It will have had good bits as well as bad bits in it, and in-betweeny bits as well. So it's a much more holistic rating of the self or of others or of things. And REBT says that, there's always a demand, always, always, always. And then some people will authorize that demand. Some people will say, I can't stand it if there's that demand. And some people will put themselves or others or down. So if you're working with somebody individually, then you will identify their specific, which beliefs are being triggered in the face of which problem, and you help them move towards the other set. But another really good thing about REBT is that not only it's a form of psychotherapy, but it's also used as a coaching tool. So it's used in business coaching and life coaching, but it's also considered to be a school of thought in its own right. So if you adopt its principles in general, it's a much more rational, much more constructive, and much more productive way of looking at everything, because nothing needs to be a must. Nothing is the end of the world except for the end of the world. The only things that are unbearable are the things that truly kill you. And nobody and nothing is a complete anything. So once you get your head around it as a general philosophy for life, life becomes a whole lot easier. So the book's about all 4 unhealthy beliefs, all 4 healthy beliefs, and then a 6-week program to help you identify a problem and work on it from beginning to end.
Brilliant. Do you know Ricky Gellison?
I do, yes, I've met him.
I no longer say I must have tea or coffee, but that I will accept an emotional support beverage, thus widening my options. Thank you, Ricky.
I'd like to have one, but I don't have to have one, which means that you won't freak out if none are available.
Yes, just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Jules says, I wonder, she was a guest a few weeks back. I wonder how many journalists become psychotherapists. Catchy title on the book. This flexible preference concept, simplified, sounds like an easily adaptable behavior modification.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to explain. And it's a form of behavior modification. It's also a form of emotional modification, a form of thought modification. It's very, very easy to say. The difficulty is in getting people to put it into practice and then live life according to it. That's the challenging bit.
Lisa asked the question, how do you know when important stuff is being trivialized or bypassed?
Oh, well, I try not to trivialize anything, and I try not to bypass anything. It's all important. And people will come in and go, oh, some people might have got a first world problem. Other people have got real problems. No, you're here. It's causing you concern. It's causing you distress. It's not a trivial problem. It's not a first world problem. It's a problem, and it's your problem. So okay. The way to deal with that is to not trivialize or bypass at all. Just accept things from their perspective.
Wonderful. So, okay. What would you say? I mean, you've achieved lots. So what would you say you're most proud of in terms of your life? I mean, it could be your book, but I don't necessarily mean it's your book. But
Yeah, I'm very good at playing down. I don't see myself as having achievements. It's just stuff I do. Things I say things. Maybe I trivialize it.
that's right. I hear that.
I don't achieve things. Things happen. The book happened. I didn't achieve it. It just happened. I wrote a pitch. The pitch got accepted. It just happened. Um, um, I think that keeps me humble. I never want to turn into an arrogant person going, "Oh, look at me, look what I've done." So I jokeify it. I think one of the proudest things really is that I accidentally. So I've got a rescue dog. She's my second rescue dog. My first rescue dog sadly passed away last year. I accidentally turned her into a semi-famous therapy dog. That appeared in newspapers and magazine articles, on radio. The Priory Hospital did a video on her because she worked there. Battersea did a video on her because they were so pleased with what they'd done. And she was a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. And at the time, they had quite a bad PR. The media used to call them the devil dogs, and people would say, "Oh, their jaws lock, they kill you, this, that, and the other." And yeah, my dog was a rescue, and I turned her into a bit of a media celebrity. And I think that's probably one of my more proud things.
I think that is absolutely amazing, just lovely. Yeah, because they do get bad press.
Mm.
Okay, just John King says just what you were saying sounds like the 4 A's: awareness, acceptance, action, and adherence.
Yes.
Brian says own your accomplishments, and Geraldine says I will purchase your book, Daniel. Thanks for writing it.
Very much.
So, all right, what's the biggest challenge you've had that you've overcome?
God, living in this world.
Okay.
Oh God, I have been beset by many challenges. I come from quite a traumatic background, so that was if you knew about my background, you could understand why I became a therapist. I'm gay, and I was born at a time when that was like reviled in the press. And so, as a child, I was bullied for being gay from yay high. And see, I was bullied for being gay before I knew what that word meant. I was bullied for being gay before I knew I was it. But because those words are used against you, you are hypervigilant to those words, and they're all around you. And at that time, I mean, I was born in 68. So I was, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, etc. There was nothing good about the word or any of the associated words, and you soak it up like a sponge, and it's just hate in the press, in the pulpit, on your television, on the street, in the classroom. It was everywhere. So there's the day when you actually realize, oh my God, I am this most reviled person. And that was challenging. I worked out that I was gay at about the age of 11, and at roughly about the same time my dad died. And so I'm not quite sure which one was the biggest challenge at the time. It was quite a lot to hit a little 11-year-old boy with. And that was another challenge that I got through. Just as I was becoming sexual, HIV hit. And so the hatred hit through the roof once more, and kind of that was another challenge. And then I remember all those adverts on the TV about "Don't die of ignorance," great big gravestones shattering like mountains, and that's that was another challenge to overcome. Yes, I think they're the big ones.
What was it that helped you overcome them?
As a kid, I read a lot. I read from a very early age. I always thought that my mum had taught me to read before I ever went to school, but she didn't. She said I just kind of like took to it like a duck to water. And I had quite an advanced reading age, and what I read was fantasy, sci-fi, especially the heavier stuff. And sci-fi and fantasy isn't actually about sci-fi and fantasy. It's about life, it's about problems, it's about trauma, it's about dealing with challenge, but it uses just that as a platform. And I also discovered the works of Terry Pratchett, literally from book one. And And, you know, humanists don't need a Bible, but if a humanist ever had a Bible, his collected works would be that Bible that you need, because he literally, you know, he teaches you how to wrestle with your demons, both literally as well as figuratively and metaphorically. So that, and I was a thinker, so I would read and think and process. Oddly, when I came to therapy, the reason I kind of like therapy, especially the REBT therapy styles, is because I just went, oh, but that's how I think. That's how I had taught myself to think. So I was quite naturally stoic before I ever came to REBT, and REBT is actually based in part on stoic philosophy. So that helped.
Wow. So it's those innate strengths also, you know,
Yes.
with your reading. Liz says this is starting to sound like my own childhood. Okay. So
Life is a challenge.
Sylvia wants to know, is it easier for you, Daniel, to understand and help men or women in therapy sessions? I assume she means because of your history, your background.
Oh, are you asking if it's easier to help men or if it's easier to help women?
No, I think is it easier for you?
Oh,
now?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I've always managed to not work out people quite easily, but understand where they're coming from. I'm not easily shockable.
Okay.
And I think that's a big quality that you can bring, because a lot of people are so scared to reveal their darkest thoughts. And there's a lot of people come to therapy that said I was really reluctant to come to therapy again because I could tell from my previous therapist's face that they were treating me like an episode of a soap opera. You know, the eyebrows would go up, the face, ooh, and I just, there's none of that. And so it's easy to understand people where they're coming from any walk of life, really. Just give them that space to just get it out.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay. So funny, Sandy says writing fiction is a great way to get a true story out in different guise, which of course, as same with storytelling. Mr. Pratchett has reshaped our frames of reference. We all have a place to feel at home in the Discworld. Brilliant. And then Ricky, Saint Terry of Pratchett and the wisdom of Weatherwax and Dog. And I mean, I only discovered, I mean, I'd heard of Terry Pratchett, and I had friends who said, oh, he's amazing, he's amazing, amazing. And I thought, oh yeah, one day. And then I was at an Obod retreat, and there were two people discussing which was I, Granny Weatherwax or Nanny Og. And neither would agree. And I thought, feck this, I have to,
Yeah.
I have to read them. So,
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with.
Yeah. So Granny Weatherwax is bar none my favourite literary character ever.
She's brilliant. I ain't dead. I just love Nanny Og keeping everything in her knickers, you know, stealing bottles of wine at parties and extra sandwiches and roast chickens and always having them on the way home. Very resourceful. And I mean, it's just way out.
Yeah.
And I loved the perfect number for a coven, 3, because 2 is an argument. I just, he was amazing. I think you know, when people ask you, who would you like to have met? What famous person would you like to have had dinner? 2, Terry Pratchett and Leonard Cohen. So they're the 2 people I'd like to have met.
Yes, I love Leonard Cohen. I came to Leonard Cohen through the music of the Sisters of Mercy. When I was a teenager, I was a goth. Not surprising in my background. My favourite band was the Sisters of Mercy, and the Sisters of Mercy is a track by Leonard Cohen. So I came to him via them. And
I came to him late in life as well. So Pat Booker says she's Nanny Og, aside from the nigger habit. I don't believe that, Pat Booker. She doesn't wear dresses. I think that's the only reason. Start wearing skirts, you'll be able to develop it too. And Julie says, I'm still at the 1 day stage of reading Pratchett one day. Well, it'll be a great day when you do start. Okay. What is the most reckless thing you've ever done?
Oh, God, so many.
Share on this, that you're willing to share on this platform.
I know there are some of them I really can't share because they were, yes. Reckless thing I did. First time I ever went abroad, it wasn't until I was 22.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had gone traveling, and we lost touch. We didn't have mobile phones or anything like that back in those days. They hadn't been invented yet. And one day I just got a postcard from him that said, I'm staying in this place called Carr-Gomm in Turkey. It's right off the beaten track. It's no tourists. I'm living in a tent on a beach. I'm working in a fish restaurant with a guy called Ahmed. Come and see me.
Wow.
And I literally sent him a postcard back and said, I booked a flight. I'll be here on this date. I'll find you. And off I flew. And luckily he got the postcard in time, and him and his boss from the fish restaurant, Ahmed, found me and picked me up at the airport. I spent 2 weeks there. And it was so idyllic, and it was like my first ever foreign excursion, and it was paradise. It was a beautiful beach, and there were no tourists, and it was unspoilt, and it was only locals, and we had nothing to do. And it was the most relaxed I've ever been. And I was so relaxed that making any kind of a decision was very difficult. What would you like to eat today? I don't know. Just give whatever. I can't think. And then one day I was laying there, and we went for a swim in the morning, and I went, I feel like there's something I should be doing today. You know, what? I went, no, I know it's stupid. He went, come on, chill. We had a drink, we went for another swim, we had some food. I was laying on the beach, and I just went, and it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon by that point. I went, I realized what I was supposed to do today. You know, what was that? I went, fly home at 9 a.m. this morning. And he went, what are we going to do? I don't know. And there were no phone boxes or anything like that. Literally, it was, idyllic and pastoral and back in time. We had to go to the mayor's house. We had to find the mayor of Carr-Gomm, because he was the only bloke that had a phone. Phone my mum, who has gone absolutely crazy because she was at the airport, so she thought I was dead. Then we went to a place called Mersin, because it was the only place that had a travel agency in. And I went to them and I said, I'm really sorry, I missed my flight. And they went, tough, buy another ticket. I went, I've got no money. And he went, what do you want me to do about it? And then the guy Ahmed and them started rowing, and there was lots of hand waving, everything like that. And the argument went on for a very long while. At the end of it, I got a ticket stamped for 4 days later. I flew home. And I liked Turkey so much, I decided on a whim to just take a year out and start off there. And I didn't do any planning. Everyone said I was completely mad. I just got a backpack about that big because I didn't want anything bigger. And I booked a one-way flight to Istanbul and went, right, I'm going, bye. My mum thought I was crazy because she said, haven't you going to plan this? Don't you think you should have a schedule? Don't you think you should have an itinerary? Don't you think you should have people to go with? And I went, no, I'll make it up as I go along. And I did. And I landed in Istanbul feeling really, really, really pleased with myself. And I had the address of one, like they called pensions, cheap hostels. And I went to this hostel that had been recommended to me, and it was full. And I was like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I found another hostel, and they said, well, we haven't got any rooms, but you can sleep on the roof. Oh, okay, fine, I'll have that then. And then I sat in the bar of this pension going, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? No. And then just decided to suck up all the fear and the doubt and throw myself in it. And I had a really, really wicked time. And I went through Turkey. The friend that I'd met up with the year before, I'd lost track of him. I thought, as last heard, he was in Greece. I decided to end my Turkish travel back in Carr-Gomm and walked into a bar just as he was walking into it. And it turned out he'd turned up in that same village about 2 weeks before. We traveled a bit together. Then I went to Cyprus. Then I went to Israel. Then I went to Egypt. And I very nearly didn't come home at all. But then I got ill and had to come home. So that ended that trip.
So how did you fund that? Were you working along the way or getting some work or?
I had a relative who had passed away, and both me and my brother got a little bit of money, and he put the money into a mortgage and bought a house, and I put that into travel. So part of it actually I spent many months in Calgary in Alberta, Canada. So I spent a lot of time in Calgary, and then the rest of it funded that year away. Technically, I was supposed to work and not keep dipping into that fund. But I wasn't that very good at finding work. I did work in a hotel pool bar in Cyprus, and I did work on a farm in Israel, And then I briefly worked selling camel rides to tourists on the streets of Cairo.
So, often I ask the question: is any regrets? So your brother did the sensible thing,
Yeah.
and money on a house, and you went traveling. Any regrets about that?
Yes, until I had a conversation with him. We were talking one day. I went to visit him, and we were having a few drinks, and he said, "I've always envied you." He said, "From the age of 17, I've had a mortgage." He said, "I've always been a slave to that mortgage. All I do is upgrade the house and fiddle with the mortgage. It's bricks and mortars my whole working life. It's just been this. You've been to places I've never seen and never will. You've seen sunsets and sunrises in places I can only dream of. I envy you." And I went, "Well, if it's any consolation, I envy you, because you've got stability that I'll never have." I said, "I doubt I'm ever going to own my own home, and it's never going to look nice. I'm only ever going to be renting, and la, 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 la." And then we both realized, oh, it doesn't really matter.
That's fascinating. Isn't it just fascinating that I think maybe we make the choices that are right for us, and whatever choice you make, you foreclose on another one. You can't remain open to decide. You make a decision, you choose one, you let go of the other option, and there's a price, and you pay for whatever you decide, and hopefully you're happy ultimately with the choice that you did make, and you pay the price for it.
Yes.
Even with a little bit of, oh, if only I, maybe, and if, all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. My house is nice. I like it. I mean, I finally owned it. I finally bought a house at the age of 54. So I do own the walls around me now, but I don't regret what I did. I mean, I've traveled across America. I've traveled across Canada and seen some really beautiful things. We did. I went with a couple of friends for one trip to Canada, and we landed in Toronto and ended up. I can't remember what there's this thing where people want their cars driven great distances for reasons, and you get to drive the cars for them. And we saw this number in a book, and we found out that said, right, we want to drive a car, blah, blah, blah. And it's a bit like, The Hitcher. Have you seen the movie The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer?
No, I haven't.
It's a really old psychological horror movie, and it involves somebody who's driving a car for somebody else across America in one of these deals, and he picks up this psychotic hitcher who's Rutger Hauer. But anyway, so we did that, and no psychos. No, we were given this brand new top of the range Buick LeSabre, which is almost like the Rolls Royce of American cars. Not quite a Cadillac, but I actually prefer them to. It was a beautiful car, absolutely beautiful. And I drove it all the way from Toronto to Winnipeg. And it was so beautiful that every time we crossed the straight line, we got stopped by the police because they couldn't believe three scruffy blokes would have a car like that. So I don't regret any of that. We stayed in a place called Thunder Bay, which was absolutely stunning. So I don't mind that it took me to the age of 54 to get a house, because I had all that instead.
But it doesn't matter. The thing is, for your old age, you want a bit of stability, and your brother can go on a holiday and see a sunset someplace.
Yeah. Well, oddly, he sees it a lot now. He drives some great big haulage trucks across Europe, so now he gets the sunsets that he never had when we were younger.
So it all works out eventually in the end.
It does indeed, yes.
Yes. Oh, it's brilliant. What are you grateful for?
My dogs, my sense of humor, my stoicism,
yes,
and my way with words. I don't know where that come from, but I don't know, and I don't know if I got it because I read a lot, or I just got it if it was a gift to me from Arwen. I've always had a way with words. It's only actually made sense to me since I've been studying Druidry that inspiration does come from somewhere.
It's beautiful, beautiful. You have a book coming up in May. So would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's not a sequel or a follow-up. It's a completely different book. It's got little bits of REBT in it, but it's called How to Cope with Almost Anything with Hypnotherapy.
Okay,
so, oh, thank you.
Almost anything, not everything. Okay, anything.
How to cope with almost anything with hypnotherapy. And it's all about tips and tricks to enhance your well-being and improve your resilience in the face of challenges.
And this is coming out in May. So who's your publisher?
Bloomsbury. So Penguin was the first one. Bloomsbury is this one.
Okay, well, we look forward to.
Thank you. Before I trained as a rational emotive behavior therapist, my training was hypnotherapy.
Ah, okay. I trained as a hypnotherapist. I did it for a while, and then now I just use it on myself. So
yeah,
really, really helpful. Really, really useful.
Oh yeah. I still love it today. You can do some amazing things with it. I never fail to be amazed at the wonders that you can help create with other people when you use it.
Absolutely. Now, you're a poet. Would you like to share some of your poetry?
Am I a poet? I can. I've dabbled with poetry.
It's realizing your talent here. Did I hear something like that? No?
No,
Little put down of your poetry?
Possibly. Poetry is something I dabbled with on and off throughout most of my life. I did perform a little bit at an art event in my mid-30s, and then just it all fell by the wayside until I started the Bardic Grade, which is one of the things that I wanted to do. I didn't want it to awaken my inspiration, and it did. I wrote a poem, and well, I had a poem that I'd already written that I took to my first ever Grove. So I went to the Bristol Grove for a look-see, and I brought a poem because I was told, you bring a gift to the Eisteddfod of something. And then I started writing poems for all the wheels, all the festivals on the Eightfold Wheel. So, would you like one from the festivals, or would you like something else?
Well, we're not just going having one, so
okay.
We don't want you to limit yourself.
Okay. What should I say? We've just had Imolc.
Yes.
So, shall I read you my poem that I wrote for Imolc?
Brilliant.
I will have to. I have to read one as well that by request, because Daniel Mackenzie will get very upset if I don't read a particular poem. But we'll save that for later.
Okay.
So this is a poem I wrote for Imolc. This is just this is me trying to understand festivals from my own frame of reference. So Imolc has a silent B and represents the feminine in deity, or Bridget specifically, a saint in Christianity. It marks the coming of the spring and all the life that's quickening as the birds and the bees do their thing, and I feel my sap rise within. But the winter has yet to breathe its last, and the cold can still force a gasp, with weather wild and snow melt fast, skin to goosebump and breath to rasp. Imolc has a silent bee and gives the land fertility and living things virility, dispersing seed willy-nilly. Snowdrops and crocus begin to bloom. The clocks go forward very soon. The longer days a gift, a boon. Still, strike a light to fight the gloom. A festival of mother and child, of pagan and Christian not quite reconciled, a cleansing rite that's highly styled, and over time a touch defiled. Imolc has a silent bee and awakens my creativity, perhaps my own divinity, and self-care importantly. May I light 8 candles just for me and rampant run through this city to be my own festivity for Imolc with a silent bee.
Oh, that's beautiful. Sylvia says, fabulous Imolc poem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Absolutely lovely. And of course, today's the 29th of February, and I don't know if there's any women proposing to marriage because you have to wait another 4 years. I say that in jest, of course. Fabulous. I appreciate the economy of the lines in your poem. Lovely. Love it. Fabulous. Clap, clap, clap. Just beautiful. Wonderful. So, do you have one for the equinox, given that we're almost there?
I do. I wrote this one for the equinox last year. It's a similar vein. It's called A Spring Invocation.
Okay.
Oh spring, come do your thing. Prepare the land for the acorn's king, with a caress on the blossom and a breath on the bud. Revive my soul and bid my blood to run a little faster. O spring, come do your thing, engorge my manhood and my evening. Auburn Eimear, give me your warm embrace, release the top notes and sun-kiss my face, blush my skin so alabaster. O spring, come do your thing, from valley to hillock, let us go gambolling. Open my windows, cleanse my chi, permeate my noefri with your energy, as I am not yet ready to put out to pasture. O spring, come do your thing. Let me walk in the daylight without shivering. I'll reflect on the darkness and turn to the light, a celebrant of balance, of day and of night, with a nod and a wink to the goddess Astara. O spring, come do your thing. Repeal my dotage, let my youth have a swing. May I run through your fields without ache in my bones, and pull an all-nighter with new fire in my stones, until the Holly King returns again as master, and Auburn El-Fed assumes the mantle thereafter.
Hey, wonderful. Ricky says it's the 29th of February, so Facebook Memories will play this poem in 4 years' time.
Awesome. Take me that long to get over it.
Brilliant. A concern you have, I'm going to get you before we finish, certainly read the poem that Daniel has requested. One concern you have about the modern world.
There's the intolerance is a big thing. There's too many of us, and we are all very, very insular, and we're all very, very intolerant because of it. And I think we've got to drop that intolerance, become more tolerant, not just of each other, but of every other living thing on this planet. We're very nature intolerant. That is slowly reversing, or maybe not so slowly, as you said. The membership, I mean, Druidry and shamanism are two of the fastest growing religions in this country. There's a big story in The Economist about that last year. But intolerance is going to doom us all if we don't get over that.
So what gives you hope then?
Gen Z. We've
Go
talked
on.
about them a little bit. They've had, they're growing up in a world that they realise that, it's not working. The way it's been done isn't working. They're the ones that are on social media, which we were talking about earlier. They're the ones that are hashtagging the heck out of spirituality and seeking that out. They're the ones that want the powers that be to do more to look after the environment, the ecology. They're the ones that are turning their noses up at business practices. I think it's hilarious. They're going out into the workplace now and going, sorry, is this it? No, I'm not doing this. I'm not working through lunch. No. Work from home at night and answer emails at night. No, I'm not doing that either. No. And people are complaining about them and going, they don't have a work ethic. But they do. But there is more to life than just going to work, working through lunch, going home, working. And they've realized, I'm sorry, you don't pay me enough to do all that, so I'm not doing it. If you want me to do all that, pay me more. And they're also the ones going into the workplace and going, how are you going to look after my well-being? Oh, you're not? Well, I'm not going to work for you then. And so there's this massive drive now in not just providing well-being workshops and breakout rooms and yoga sessions. It's driving everything. Offices now are thinking about, well, we have to provide shower facilities and gyms, and we have to incorporate biophilic design, because if we don't, these people aren't going to come and work for us, and we want them to come and work for us. And so they are the change that we need to see.
It's interesting. It's great to hear of young people saying, I'm not going to work under those conditions. I remember when I was in secondary school in the last century, a teacher saying, and with computers, because computers are going to make huge inroads in the world, except they require a lot of storage. This is when computers were ginormous machines. But they said we're going to have to cope and learn to adapt to a 3-day working week. And we're going to have to learn how to use our leisure time, because this will be new. Oh, that never happened.
It didn't, did it? We're still fighting for a 4-day working week.
That's right. But the interesting thing about, nice conditions at work, yoga and therapy and showers, that it's very, very important that the working conditions are still good, and that the salary is good, and working hours are good. Not that, okay, we will provide you with a shower and a yoga thing so that you can stay here for 20 hours of the day.
Yeah.
That it needs to be balanced, that actually all these nice things are actually congruent with what the work situation is. Sean says, nice to hear someone speak positively of the new generation. I think everyone could have used the same from those before. Break the cycle of generational trash talk. Lisa says, important, we need freedom from fashion. Sorry, but it's really crucial. Sean McCann says, Morda and Wian learned from each other and worked together in the Taliesin story. And Sylvia says, bravo. So agree. Employers expect more than ever before. You accept a job and end up being the shop cleaner as well. It's not about being married to your job. It's doing a job that is meaningful, that is, if you can be of service, and that you recognize the job you have is of service, gives you more meaning and respect. You work for the organization who also respects you. Francis says, a 3 or 4 day working week would help the environment immensely, given the current state of affairs. And I said this to you when I think average working week in Germany after the Second World War was 50 hours. And when they reduced it to 39, productivity did not go down.
No.
I mean, hours spent at work is not related to productivity.
No.
It's about quality of work to do that. But yes. So Daniel's request.
Okay. I better find it now. This is so the very first grove I attended was for Samhain, which I thought was very auspicious, because that's it's not my most favorite celebration on the wheel. It's my second favorite. But I took a poem that I had written years ago, and because I was very, very nervous, I read it to Daniel before I went, and he loved it.
Brilliant.
Now I can't find it. It's just that I also like nonsense poetry and whimsical poetry and slightly. Have you heard of Edward Gorey and the Ghastly Crumb-Teenies? And
no.
Oh, they're slightly sinister little children's things.
Gorey.
Edward Gorey.
Edward Gorey. Okay.
I also like the work of Charles Addams, so the Addams Family, but the original cartoons. But
and is that Gorey?
Gorey? Yes.
Okay.
So this is called "There's Something Nasty on the Stairs." There's something nasty on the stairs. It caught my mummy unawares. I heard her scream whilst in my bed, and now I think that mummy's dead. There's something waiting. It's out quite late. The cat went down to investigate. There was a growl and then a hiss, and that's one kitty I'm sure I'll miss. There's something hiding in the gloom. My brother should not have left his room. I heard him gurgle, I heard him gasp, and then I heard him breathe his last. There's something lurking in the dark. It's playing with Daddy. He likes a lark. First a thump and then a groan, and now I'm left here all alone. There's something nasty on the stairs. Should I give it my teddy bears? It killed my family, a shocking end. I wonder if it will be my friend.
Now that's Edward Gorey's, or that's yours?
That's mine.
Woo!
That's the first poem I took to an Eisteddfod, but I'd written it years ago. But as I said, I read it out to Daniel because I was nervous, going, "What do you think? What do you think?" And he loved it and said I'd have to read it tonight or he wouldn't forgive me.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant! I don't know if he's here. I haven't seen him, but anyway, he can watch a recording of it. So we're coming to the end of our conversation. Sean McCann says spicy and good. Julia Foyle says, a poem my 10-year-old self would have loved. And Jules, a Gorey fan here. Daniel, well done with a perfect Gorey inspiration.
Thank you.
So there's a town in Wexford called Gorey.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. Wonderful. So I know you've kind of half answered a question, but my last two questions are always, what is your favorite season and what is your favorite ceremony and the Wheel of the Year? So I know what your second favorite is. So what's your favorite?
So my favorite season is summer, because I
Okay.
like the sun. But my favorite festival is the winter solstice.
And what is it about the winter solstice that it's your favorite?
Because it's the passing of the longest night. It means, so as much as I love the summer, June the 21st, because I'm a bit of a miserable, grumpy thing, I'm always a little bit sad on June the 21st, because it's all downhill from there. So it's just like, summer's over. It's not summer's over, but it's waning. It's only just begun and it's already waning. And you're like, oh. And I get really miserable. So if June the 21st is not blazing sunshine and sultry heat, I'm very, very upset. With the winter solstice, I mean, I haven't celebrated Christmas for years. I celebrate the winter solstice even before I joined OBOD. And because it's the opposite. Okay, it's dark and it's miserable, but it's all coming back from there. So that's
funny. I love long evenings, and I do love heading up to the longest day. And of course, living where I do in this part of the northern hemisphere, you know, the days are really long, and I still get a night's sleep, unlike further north. And there's always that little bit of sadness, but I know I am going to drag this summer out until I really find difficulty going into September, because then I know it's getting darker and darker now. But once I've passed the equinox, I'm fine. I'm resigned. I'm accepting. I've surrendered to it, and I love the darkness and I love the dark ceremony of the winter solstice, being in that dark cave. I just love it, and it's lovely to stay there because I know I'm coming out as well. I'm not there forever, but it's just beautiful. Anne says, thank you both so much. This has been a unique conversation full of new things to think about.
Thank you. I like that word, unique.
Yes, isn't it lovely? And Lisa, thank you both very much. I especially enjoyed your poetry. Be well. Peace. It's been such a joy talking to you, Daniel. And I've really, really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
Rich says, poetry, psychotherapy, and censored profanity. Huzzah. Thank you, Eimear and Daniel. Actually, there's a question from somebody. Discursive meditation. Are you familiar with that?
No, that's a new one on me.
I'm not going to. Somebody, is it? Are you? Do you? No, I can't. I'm not going to be able to find it. Discursive meditation. I think it was discursive meditation. Let me see if I can find that question.
You have a quick Google for that one?
Yeah, I could try it. Wait a second.
Let's have a look.
Where is it? Yeah. Is your therapy practice at all informed by discursive meditation?
So I first have to understand what discursive meditation is, because I've never come across that as a term. Oh, there it is. It's coming up.
Daniel has just arrived. As we're ending, Daniel.
Oh, right. Better late than never. Telling me missed the poem.
Yes.
I cannot find a very simple right. So opening posture, relaxing stage, fourfold breath. What is the discursive stage? Who asked the question? Do they want to put what the discursive stage is? Because I do all the elements.
He's I think he's French, because he referred to you as Monsieur. Great. And Karen says, many thanks to you both for an enjoyable convo tonight. I'll be taking another look at hypnotherapy. And Yvette says, I've only been here 5 minutes, but it's wonderful. So.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, the discursive stage. Yes, absolutely. Always start with something simple.
Yeah.
If I've understood what he's asking correctly, and I may be wrong, always start with something simple and build up from there.
It's about establishing a relationship. It's about actually what any of us do when we meet for the first time. You start with lighter stuff, safer stuff, checking out, and then gradually, as the conversation develops, it deepens. Absolutely. So, an excellent conversation. Enjoy your bardic journey. This is from Sean in Canada. So it's been such a joy talking to you. I let you say goodnight to everybody.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening to me. I hope you have enjoyed it, and thank you for appreciating my poetry. Thank you, and good night, and good morning, and good afternoon from wherever you are.
So I'll send you back. You stay in the green room because then we can look at some of the comments. Okay.
Okay.
So
Great.
see you in a few minutes. So thank you so much again for joining in with your lovely comments. And of course, I don't get to read all of them because sometimes they go so fast. Just so lovely to have you here. And I look forward to seeing you next week for another Fireside Chat. So enjoy the rest of your evening, your afternoon, your morning, or if you're listening to a recording of this chat. So, Slán go fóill, and may you all be well.